My salutations to you, wherever you are, and whatever time zone you are within. Well, here in Australia, it is after 10 p.m., just about 5 minutes or so. I quickly want to deliberately share something with you from the scriptures before I move on. Um, there is this story from the book of Ephesians, chapter 6. And I noticed that it is put into some sections full of instructions, but I'm not going to really read the instructions per se. But I want to say from verse 1 to 3, it is talking about the responsibilities of children in their homes. In 4 to 6, it is a description of how parents should handle their children. And in 5 to 8, it is talking about how masters and those who have slaves should go about their daily matters, and how the slaves should really, really behave towards their masters. Although I'm not someone comfortable with the idea of slavery, and so on like that. And am I free to feel that the Almighty sanctions slavery? And especially when I try to cast my mind back into some of the contents in the Old Testament, then I wonder whether it is logical to have a slave and to even treat the slave the way one wants, and whether it is sacred. I will reserve this probably for future deliberations. And then don't forget that in the previous chapter of the same book, we've been told about the roles of husbands to their wives and the roles of wives to their husbands, and how the relationship will be exactly as that of the Savior or the Messiah or Mashiach and the people of the way, people who have chosen to abide in the truth. They have chosen to relinquish their truth so that the truth can take over, so that they can say, it is no longer my way. It is no longer my thought. It is no longer my way, but yours. This kind of people, this kind of instructions are for. But I want to just go to chapter 10, where I want to read it for some reasons. In verse 10 of chapter 6, it says, last of all, I want to remind you that your strength must come from Yahweh's mighty power within you. Remember, when we are in the the Almighty empowers us and gives us a mighty power. What for? Put on all of Yahweh's armor so that you will be able to stand safe against all strategies and tricks of the evil one. I like that. There are a few things there. So one or two words that are very, very serious. All of Yahweh's armor of Yahweh. This is very strong. All means you have been able to count them. You've been able to know exactly the number. And you don't only know the number, you know each of the item by name. So that by the time you are thoroughly clothed with this, you will know that nothing is lacking. And that is what verse 11 is saying. Put on the entire armor that the Almighty has given to you. Otherwise, you will not be able to stay safe, let alone to fight the enemy. May I put it the way I'm trying to understand it? It is impossible to defeat the enemy when we have not put on the entirety of what Yahweh has provided for us. And take a while to look at it. How many of us have actually put on the entire armor that the Almighty has given to us? Look at verse 12, which is the reason. For we are not fighting against people made of flesh and blood, but then against people without bodies, the evil rulers of the unseen world, those mighty satanic beings and great evil princes of darkness who rule this world, and against huge numbers of wicked spirits in the spirit world. I have to say, we're not fighting physical battle. All the wickedness that we see in the world emanate from somewhere. They are spiritual. And how can a carnally minded person fight this? None of us have seen the wind. But all of us who care and are matured enough have not only seen the strength of the wind, but equally the massive destructions that winds have left behind. And that is why we've given them different names: typhoons, hurricanes, and tsunamis, and so on and so forth. Well, that has to do with the water, but not without wind as well. So you can agree with me that we are not wrestling against what we see. There are countries that have blocked the gospel by determination. We are not wrestling against those people. We are wrestling against the spirits that have given them those ideas. The numerous things that are going bad in our country, their engineers are beyond these people that we see. The forces that control humanity are true and real. And I'm afraid and even sad to tell you that there is no system of government that is not ruled by the spirits in the dark world. There's no single government in the world, whether in Israel or wherever we want to think about it. Forget about other places, Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth, because it is sure. What about Nigeria? Of course, what we are seeing in Nigeria is a child's play. It is what goes on in the darkened world that matter. Then children of the Almighty, the truth bearers, know who you are fighting. As long as we don't know who we are fighting, we cannot be properly clothed. We cannot wear the armor correctly. And I feel that the author of this book, let the church, the believers in Ephesus to get to know the kind of people that they were fighting. And it is really shocking. So when a country such as Nigeria fails, it is because most of us have not put on the entire armor of the Almighty to fight the battle. So we are not safe, and the enemy has upper hand. And so some of us are experts in analyzing the kind of situations that we have in Nigeria, for instance. But behind all those things, the forces of darkness are in operation and oppressed through the hearts of the presidents, the prime ministers, members of the House of Parliament, the governors, the premiers, the ministers, the members of the National Assembly, and on, commissioners, various leaders in either government settings or private settings. And of course, the United Nations as a whole. NATO, mention them. And then when you think about church organizations, when you think about Islamic organizations, another tear, another level of tears in our eyes. The whole systems of the world, they are ruled by the unseen. And it will only take us putting the entire garment of the Almighty before we can fight them and fight them to win. What a challenge. I read verse 13. So use every piece of Yahweh's armor to resist the enemy whenever the enemy attacks. And when it is all over, you will be standing up. What can we talk about the situations that are happening currently in some places where sufferings and death are the order of the day. The poor getting poorer and poorer. And the delusions cover the land as the sufferings intensify in dimensions beyond human description. It is all because those who should put the entire armor of the Almighty have not put on, and therefore they cannot stand up to resist the enemy. What a thought for us. But do this. You will need the strong bales of truth and the breastplate of Yahweh's approval. You can now see that the number one thing to put on is truth, the belt of truth. What does that mean? The belt, which stands for the truth, is the connecting point from down and from up. Do you know that the entire strength of man is at his waist, is at our waist, male or female? And then this is the kind of thing that we will put on. The bells of truth. If we will ever make any beautiful appearances, if we will ever look beautiful, if there would be any diligence in us, the truth is an essential thing, the unifying factor. The unifying factor. The truth is the unifying factor. Give the truth the right place it belongs. And then we can go forward. Look at verse 15. Wear shoes that are able to spit you on as you preach the good news of peace with Yahweh. In every battle, you will need faith as your shield to stop the fiery arrows aimed at you by the devil, the evil one. And you will need the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word. Tefillah at all time. Ask Yahweh for anything in line with the Spirit's wishes or desires. Plead with Yahweh, reminding Yahweh of your needs, and keep interceding earnestly for all Yahweh's children everywhere. I like that. The unifying factor still remains the truth. And as long as we have not immersed ourselves in the truth, we can never win any battle. Where are we today? I'll stop this and I'll share the screen with you. And look at what I intend to share. This one here. And I put it to the fullest. Rejection of the truth is the only activity of the spiritual wickedness in high and low places. Powers, princedoms, the violent, the barbaric, the rulers of darkness, the evil one, whether we call it the devil, or the evil one, or the adversary, and their cohorts. What are we really fighting? Why do we have these numerous enemies everywhere? And they finally show with human faces. It is because the target is the truth. They want the entire world to abide in truthlessness. And then we all perish. So you can see while we're putting on the entire armor, the truth united everything. It pulls everywhere together. Your faith must be tied to the truth. Your tefillah must be tied to the truth. Your relationships with any other person must be tied to the truth. In our songs and sermons, everything, family altars for those who care to have must be tied to the truth. And when we are in our offices, as we fight the fierce battle, the truth must be prominent. It must be seen. It must be felt. It must be heard. Because we are individually an entity of the truth, of truth and of the truth if we choose to. So the current systems that are harming us consciously and unconsciously, knowingly and unknowingly, are products of truthlessness. Let's take a while to think about that. And that is why the truth is essential. I'll stop the screen sharing as I wrap up. So, my dear brother, my dear sister, and those who care to listen, we need the truth. Let us open ourselves before the Almighty. By ourselves, I mean, let us as we are come to the truth. Let us open to the truth. Let us choose deliberately to hide ourselves in the truth. From thence will come out the truth to shine wherever we are, whether on the farms, in the kennels, in the offices, during our various businesses, and whatever will really be what the Almighty wants us to be. Do you think we have any time when we see the world collapsing every single day, that each of us, as best as we can be, we're not different from bears, and we've chosen the wrong systems to even worsen the situation? We need to think about some of these things seriously. Thank you.